Welcome to Small Biz Life, episode 142. How do you define full time? It's interesting because when we're hanging out around the internet, um, we kind of get a lot of inspiration from our Facebook group, from other groups that we're in.
Mhm.
Um, and this was a really interesting discussion. People started talking about full time and what does that look like? And so we thought it'd make a really interesting episode.
Yeah, I think it's really important to talk about this too, because most people, um, myself included for many years, have this definition that sort of goes back to the industrial age when people would go work in a factory as what is full time, what is not full time. And honestly, we just think it's flawed logic. And we think it's something that people need to rethink what it means to be full time.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the thing that I kind of agree with you, I think especially people who come out of corporate, and I've been out of corporate for a long time now, over 12 years. And so for me, maybe it's just because I've done this for such a long time, I don't struggle with this. I think a lot of people they they struggle with seat time,
Hmm.
right? Like um I have to be there from, 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. at my desk. And then, oh crap, there's all the other stuff I have to do. So I'm going to do that, nights and weekends and every other time. Right. And so I think that, it's really important that we kind of look at how small business owners are defining this, and how we should redefine. Right, because it's really interesting. I was going back and doing some research, and as technology evolves, right, I would think that we would be spending less hours working. Right, we have
Hmm.
all these tools and all these efficiencies, and yet, if you look at surveys over time, the average small business owner is still working 50 to 60 hours a week, depending on what survey you look at. Between 25 and 39% of small business owners work more than 60 hours a week still.
Yeah.
And
You
that's
know,
just crazy.
it's, the thing is, as you're building up your business, you're going to have to put in more hours, especially like if you're a client driven business, you have to pull in clients and service the clients, especially early on. Until you have what is called a customer base, uh, you're going to have to spend more time. But the thing is, as you get the time up, what do you do? Do you just, work those same hours? Do you adjust? And the great thing is, you know, you get to choose when you're the owner.
Hmm. Right. And that's the thing. And I think, the problem is, I think what happens is small business owners are not opting to decrease their hours. And I think part of that is because small business owners don't have a definition um, of what full time should look like for
Mhm.
them. And so, one of the things that I want you to think about, and this is a question that I ask um, a lot of business owners when I work with them, is how do you define full time? Like, because
Mhm.
a lot of people come to me and they say, hey, I'm working and I'm building my business and I want to get my business to full time. And I say,
Yeah.
okay, well, what does that look like? And they're like, well, I want to quit my job and I want to be working my business full time. And I said, okay, what does that mean?
Mhm.
And most business owners go, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like but that full, like everybody is full time in their head. Um, and I would argue, like, I don't know right now, if we work, what most people would consider full time, um, hours wise in the business. When I look at full time, I'm looking at income,
Mm.
right? So is the business making enough money to, to be a full time income? Can it support us? That's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for time in my chair or time with clients or I'm looking at the revenue piece. And if you allow the revenue piece to be what drives how much time you're spending in your business, I think you're going to be happier with your business.
Yes.
You know, we talked about this actually this morning. We're running this challenge in the Facebook group, which if you're not in the Facebook group, you can go to you can go to facebook.com/group/smallbiz.life and you can join our Facebook group. So we're running this challenge, helping business owners. It's based off of an episode we did 2 weeks ago, helping business owners get rid of busy work in their business. And one of the things that I find is that business owners, when they tend to set goals, or when I ask them what they're working on, they say, well, I want more revenue, I want more clients, I want more of this and more of that and more.
Mm-hmm.
They don't define it. They don't say, I want 6 new clients and I want $8,000 more in revenue per month and I want 500 more people on my email list.
Mm-hmm.
They just say, I want more. And the problem with more is that there is no end to more.
Yeah. This actually reminds me, and I might have the surfing company wrong, but I think it was Ron John, which became a pretty big surfing company. At least I heard of it, and I'm not in surfing at all. Several years ago. I was going to say 2 years ago, but I'm older now, so that could be 10.
I think we went to one of their stores in Florida last year.
I think we went to one of their stores when we were in Florida. And the owner did something really courageous, and I don't know how it worked out for him, but this is a company that was growing really rapidly, fast growing. So, you know, it's easy, especially when you're fast growing, to get caught up in the money even more. People think you just struggle with that when you're struggling at the beginning, but as you grow, you keep seeing opportunities, you keep seeing things to grab at. And he actually put out a corporate edict that I think they moved to 4-hour workdays. He's like, we've lost track of the site that we are a surfing company. And if we don't have time to surf, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
And so he essentially gave everyone a year and gave them some resources to be more effective in their job so they could get their work done in less time, so that they could all work 4-hour days and they could all go and surf after work, which I thought was commendable, because that was sort of the vision of why he even created the gear in the first place, was to probably enjoy it while he was surfing. And he had grown so much, he was probably working 16, 20-hour days, because he's the CEO of a fast growing company. And it takes a lot of courage. And yes, it probably slowed down his growth, but if he could still continue to grow his company and get the things done in less time, you know, it allowed him to turn full-time to 4 hours a day.
Right. Well, it's interesting because, you know, when the research that I was doing, I think, let's see. So one of the articles that is going to be linked in the show notes, it said that 32% of people or business owners are spending, business owners are spending 32% of their time on the business versus 68% of their time in the business.
Mm-hmm.
And 75% of them would want to spend more time on the business, right? So if you're thinking on the business, that's your planning, you're managing, versus in the business, that's, you know, you're doing the administrative work, you're helping customers, you're trying to do sales. And the thing is, you know, as business owners, you know, our ultimate goal, if this is going to grow and thrive and survive, we need to be delegating off a lot of those things that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of interesting because when I was doing the research, I kind of wanted to see, okay, well, what are small business owners actually spending their time on? And it was really interesting because, you know, I think it was, you know, small business owners spending time on email, they're spending time on bookkeeping, they're spending time on everything other than, you know, what we call in Small Biz HQ, the CDS, right? The creating, delivering, and selling. right? And so what we're finding is that a lot of small business owners are doing these tasks that are below their pay grade.
Yes.
Right. So, it's really interesting because, like, I talk to people all the time who are accountants and lawyers and engineers and high-end web developers and, these, folks that their billable rate is somewhere in the $250 to $1,000 an hour range.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so if you think about that, you're like, that's really good money, right? That's really good money. Except when I dig in and I figure out, okay, so what are you doing? Where do you spend your time? Well, I'm updating my bookkeeping. I'm, responding to vendor emails. I'm, I'm following up with, customer reviews. And I'm like, you need people.
Mm.
Because those things are way below your pay grade. Okay.
And Chris and I have talked about this in the past too. And we think, one of the big reasons people do this is even very successful people we've met have this problem. This, isn't just people who are starting to earn a little bit. We met people who make a lot more money than we do, who really struggle with this. And there's this idea that it's all going to fall apart.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there's this usually irrational fear, because even if something does happen and the company goes out of business, it's not like you lose the skill set and the ability to charge high pay rates for what you do. Yeah, you're gonna probably need some time to get your legs back under you and to start driving off, but the skills don't disappear. Your knowledge does not go away. The assets you have are still in place, and usually the second time is probably going to be easier than the first time because you've learned a lot of those tough lessons already.
Right. And so, I mean, Jeff makes a really good point. If something happens with your business, it does not mean that your skill set is going away.
Mm.
Right. So, as terrible as it sounds, you can always go back to work, and I know that sounds terrible, but if something happens with your business, it doesn't mean that you're without your skills, without your, the mind that got you to where you were before. And I always encourage business owners, say, listen, if you need help, right? Last week we talked about starting with something like Fiverr, to do one-off things. Then you can bring in, depending on the type of work you do, you can bring in subcontractors or you can bring in part-time employees.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you grow, you can bring in full-time people and look to see how you can kind of ramp up your team.
Mm.
But I think what most people think is I cannot, I can't do anything with my business unless I have full-time employees. And that's just not true.
Not true at all. And a lot of times, a lot of the busier tasks, email, someone could do a first wave go through for you. You get a few folders set up and, for them to put things for you. Maybe they leave just the key stuff in your inbox, or they put them into special folders so what is important to follow up with. But a little time there, a VA probably just an hour or two a week could save you a lot more time because you're not transitioning, you're not losing the train of thought, you're staying focused on those CDS skills or on the CDS activities, the creating, selling, and delivery.
And it's funny because I would even argue that you do not need to be the salesperson in your business. If you think about a lot of contractors, especially the ones that have scaled, they are no longer the salespeople in their business,
Mm-hmm.
right? They've got people who come out, they do it for you. They got the sales process down. I think like small business owners, it's really funny because they fight with me and they say, I don't want to be the face of my business. I don't want to be that person who does the Facebook Lives, who does the YouTube videos, who's in the commercials. I don't want to be that person, but I have to be the person who does the sales, and I have to be the person who closes deals.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Okay. So, you know, I think, you know, you need to like reverse that around, right? And say, okay, I am going to be the face of my business, but I'm not going to be the person who shows up and does your quote.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be that person. I think, you know, one of the things that, and we're actually gonna be talking about this in the challenge next week, but one of the things that you can work on is say, okay, how much do I charge per hour for what I do? Especially if you're a service provider, what do I, you know, what does my hourly rate break down to? And even if you're selling packages, you still need to have, okay, I want at least this much money for the hours that I'm putting in, right? So you still need to have that component in your business if you're a service provider. If you are a, if you are a product company, then what is your salary? How does your salary break down into an hourly rate? Then think about, what am I working on that I would not pay somebody my rate to do?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, you know, think about, it's like, if you were going to replace yourself in your business, would you pay someone your salary or your hourly rate to do what you do?
Mm-hmm.
To check your email, to do your bookkeeping? Those are the kinds of things that you need to look at and say, you know what? Those need to be delegated off to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. And especially for those of us who work at home, that also comes down to, would I pay someone my hourly rate to clean my house or to mow my lawn? You know, because that's time that could be reappropriated. So that's, you know, very easy to delegate. There are lots of people set up to do that at a probably much lower price point than you expect. I know we were shocked at the house cleaning service cost.
Yeah. That was one that I was like, really? It's that cheap?
It was a no-brainer once we actually finally had the courage to ask for a quote. But, you know, it's like, these are, you know, it's like, because especially you work at home, you're like, well, I could save more money because then I could do all of the house cleaning. I can do I'll mow in between email checkings, and I end up checking the email, mowing, and cleaning the house all day. And the thing I don't do is create, deliver, or sell.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing that's funny is, like, I mean, if you know Jeff and I, especially if you're in HQ, because like the HQ folks really get the behind the scenes of what's going on in the business and what we're developing and how we're doing it. And there is no end to the ideas that we have.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we could create, deliver, and sell all day, every day, get a team to help us sell, and still be creating and delivering all the time. You know, and I understand that there are cash flow constraints, right? So I kind of want to talk about that a little bit for a couple minutes, because I think what happens is people get really worried and they're like, okay, well, where is this money going to come from? Right? Where's the money going to come from to pay the house cleaners and to pay the lawnmowers and to pay a virtual assistant and pay people on Fiverr? And so here's what I would recommend that you do. And this won't take as long. If you get like really focused on this, this is not going to take as long as you think. Figure out how much it's going to cost you to get somebody to clean your house every week, to mow your lawn every week, to get a virtual assistant to help you out every week. And what I'd like you to do is figure out how much that's going to cost you a month. Okay. So I'll tell you, like, for our lawn care and our housekeeping, that is about $170 a week, right? Which, if you think about that, that is less than 1 hour of billable time for either of us.
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of like, so let that sink in for a second. $170 a week to have somebody come in and clean our house and mow our lawn.
And there's a side benefit I found. It takes me over an hour to mow. We have a decent lawn, and right now we have a small push mower. So it probably takes a couple of hours to mow once a week. It looks better when someone else does it who knows what the heck they're doing.
That's true.
who puts the time to do it incorrect instead of just trying to rush it to get done so they can get back to checking their email. House cleaning, not only am I not good at it, neither Kristin or I like to do it. So, it takes us 10 times the length of time to do what we could do, and then it still doesn't look anywhere near as good. So for 1 hour of our time, we freed up several hours a week for each of us for 1 hour of billable time.
Right. So, okay. So that's less, so let's say that's, we'll just kind of make the numbers easier. We'll say $175, or I'm sorry. That is $750 a month for those two things. And I know for like some people that's a lot of money. And yes, it is a lot of money, but for how much time it frees up for us, it is a wonderful deal. So what I say is, okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to save up, especially for something like that, right? Because that's on demand. It's no commitment. If I make the commitment to this and then I don't make up the money, then I can cancel it. Okay. Same thing with like if you start outsourcing things to Fiverr, or if you get a virtual assistant and you're not recouping the money from it, you can cancel the deal. Just don't get into a long-term deal. But what I would do is I would save up like a month or two of money, okay, to pay for whatever you want to outsource. So like in our case, like I would save up like $1,500 and say, okay, we're going to commit to this for 2 months. And if in 2 months, I have not been able to increase my income by more than the $775 a month, then we'll stop doing it. Okay. But at least then I've saved up the money, right? I can pay for it. And it might take you, like, here's the thing. It might take you a couple months to do this. But what that means, like, I'm going to cut back on things a little bit. I'm going to try to get some extra work and I'm going to save up that money. And then I'm going to commit to this for a month or two and see. Because the thing is, if you're freeing up your time and you're not making more money, then we have an issue with other things. Right? Because most business owners, they tell me, I can't handle any more work. I've got inquiries coming in. I can't do any more. I'm at this point where I'm stuck. And I say, okay, but you are, you're cleaning your house, you're mowing your lawn, you're answering all your email, you don't have any help whatsoever. You're trying to do everything yourself. We've got to get some things off your plate. And so that's most people who come to me with that issue, that's where they are.
Yeah. Like if you can't get your business books done in less than an hour a month, that's another great area. I think that you can easily, get help in that area, because if you can't get done less than an hour a month, I guarantee you at the end of the year when you're preparing those books, there's going to be several additional hours that you're going to have to put in on top of what you've put in every month.
Yeah.
So I think that, once again, that's another great area to look at.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So, so look at all of those areas in your business where you would not pay yourself to do this. Okay. And then once you do that, I think that gives you a really good place to start outsourcing. Okay. And if you look at episodes we've done in the past couple weeks, we had Michelle Lowry on. She talked about hiring a virtual assistant. That's a great episode to go back to, or reach out to Michelle. Okay. We talked about Fiverr. We've talked about automating things. And we're going to be talking more about that over the next couple weeks in the challenge. This week, we talked a lot about elimination. We talked about eliminating paper, eliminating client interruptions. We talked about how to eliminate email. Go back and, you can watch all those videos. They're in the group, and figure out how can we eliminate, how can we automate, how can we outsource? Yeah.
And some of the stuff, the technical stuff, the automation can sometimes be complicated, but, or you don't know who to go to for bookkeeping. If you're in the Small Biz Life group, or especially in HQ, you get the responses quicker. Ask, Kristin and I know people who do these things, who can really help your business out get to a spot where you have more free time to create, deliver, and sell, so you can then make more money. And then you can get to a point and say, I'm at my goal. I don't need to grow anymore. So I can focus on trying to maintain my customer base and just taking care of the churn that will inevitably happen in any business.
Right. But the real key thing that we want you to take away from this episode is we want you to define what working full time on your business looks like. And I would highly recommend that is either a profit number or a revenue number.
Yeah.
I need to make X amount of revenue per month. I need to make X amount of profit per month. Because when you look at it that way, you have something that is achievable. When you say, I'm just going to work at my desk, I need to make more revenue, or I need to work 60 hours a week, I'm sorry, but I'm calling you out. That's crap.
Yeah.
And our job is to help you cut the crap out of your business, and that is crap.
Yeah. Because ultimately, if you're working 60 or 80 hours a week right now, even if you find ways to cut time, if you don't have a goal of what you're shooting for, and it needs to be something concrete and tangible, if you don't have that, your butt's going to sit 60 to 80 hours in that seat, and you're going to find other things to do. You're going to sharpen pencils until they disintegrate over and over again, just because you feel like you need to be in that seat. And there are other parts of your life that could be addressed, or maybe you have to plan on how to take your company to the next level in delivering the services or goods that you already do.
And I want to address one type of business before we're done today, because I get these folks who come to me all the time. They send me emails. I have a retail business. I can't work less than 80 hours a week because I have to be there every second that the store is open. I know lots of very successful retail owners who have gotten themselves working a reasonable week because they hire employees. Even if you look at, store managers in retail, they are not there every single second the store is open. They have assistant managers, they have key holders, they have employees. You have to get comfortable with allowing people to work for you, to help you. And in retail, that's really hard. But you do not have to be there every second the store is open. You also don't need to close your store if you go on vacation. Okay? This is something I see in retail all the time. Okay? You can actually go on a vacation if you hire and train well. Okay? And if you're struggling with this, if you want to challenge me on that, let's have that discussion. Make sure you join the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/smallbiz.life. Okay? Love to have this discussion with you there. So thank you so much. Think about what full-time means to you, and we'll see you next time.